It honestly feels like we are watching one of those moments in the PGA Tour where everything looks perfect on the surface, but underneath there is something way bigger going on. Because on one side, you have had a player coming off an absolutely historic run, the kind of performance that reminds you why we love this game. And on the other side, there's a decision being made right after that moment that is raising eyebrows across the golf. This is not just about skipping a tournament. It is about what that decision means for the tour, for the rules, for money, and for how players are starting to approach their schedules in this new era of golf. What makes this even more interesting is that this is not the first time we have seen something happen. But this time, the stakes feel higher, the consequences feel bigger, and the reaction around it feels way more intense. Two separate situations, but they are deeply connected, and together they might be telling us something important about where the PGA Tour is heading. If you're someone who really follows the tour week in and week out, this is one of those stories you cannot just... And real quick, if you enjoy this kind of honest fan-to-fan PGA Tour talk, go ahead and drop a like and subscribe to the channel. We're just getting started here, trying to hit that first 10,000 subscribers, and it really means a lot to have real golf fan following. Now, let us talk about what actually happened, because this first story is way bigger than just skipping a tournament. We're talking about Rory McIlroy coming off one of the most impressive wins of his entire career, the Masters, and not just any win. He went out there at Augusta, dominated after sharing the lead early. He completely separated himself in the second round, opening up a 6-shot lead over guys like Sam Burns, Patrick, and even when the pressure came late with Scottie Scheffler, the world number one, and Justin Rose pushing hard, Rory did not finish. Final round 71, 12 under par. Just like that, another green jacket. Back-to-back wins at Augusta, something we have not seen since Tiger Woods did it back in 2002. That alone should have set the tone for the next. All eyes on him. Momentum at its peak. Perfect storyline heading into the RBC Heritage in South Carolina, one of the PGA Tour's signature events right after this. But instead, Rory pulls out again. And this is where things get really interesting. This is not just a one-time thing. He also skipped the RBC Heritage last year after winning the Masters. And if you go back a few years, he actually withdrew from the same event and got hit with a massive fine, about $2.2 million, because at the time PGA Tour rules did not allow players to miss multiple signature events in a single. So there is history here. But what makes this moment different is why he is. And the way he explained it, Rory basically said that he does not like the schedule leading into Augusta. He would rather stay close to home, spend time with his family, even doing day trips where he drops his daughter Poppy off at school, flies into practice at Augusta, and comes back home for dinner with his wife. And as a fan, you kind of respect them. But at the same time, you cannot ignore the competitive side of it either, because he also made it clear that this approach, skipping events like Houston or San Antonio, focusing entirely on Augusta National, practicing different situations, dialing his short game, that is a huge reason why he won. So now you have this situation where the strategy works perfectly for the biggest stage in golf, but it directly conflicts with what the PGA Tour expects from the biggest star. And that is the tension, because on one hand, Rory is doing exactly what he needs to do to win. On the other hand, the tour wants its top players showing up consistent, especially at signature events like the RBC Heritage. So when he skips it, even coming off a historic win, it does not just feel like rest, it feels like a statement. And as fans, we are kind of stuck in the middle of it. You want to see him fresh, competing at his best in majors, but you also want to see the biggest names show up week after week, especially in these elevateds. And just when you think this is just about scheduling and personal choice, that is when the real twist hits. Because this decision might not just be about rest or preparation, it could end up costing him way more than it did last. Here is where things go from interesting to honestly kind of shocking. Because this second part of the story is not about performance. It is about money structure and how the PGA Tour is evolving behind the scenes. We're talking about Rory McIlroy skipping the RBC Heritage right after, but this time, the financial impact could be massive. We're not talking about a fine like before. There is no suspension and no official punishment coming from PGA Tour. Instead, what insiders are saying is that this decision could cost Rory up $5 million, not because he's being penalized directly, but because he may no longer qualify for certain bonuses tied to tour and tour. And this is where it gets really important to understand what has changed. A few years ago, the PGA Tour introduced the Player Impact Program, the PIP, rewarding players who bring attention, fans, engagement, and visibility. Rory has always been one of the biggest names, but now the structure has evolved. It is not just about popularity anymore. It is about showing up. It is about playing in signature events. It is about sponsor commitments, media presence, and broadcast value. All the things that keep the tour commercially strong. And the RBC Heritage is not just another stop. It is one of those signature events designed to showcase the biggest stars. And Rory is always at the center of that expectation. So when he skips it, even after winning the Masters, even as one of the most marketable players in the game, that creates a gap. And according to multiple sources familiar with how the system works right now, that gap could translate into millions in withheld bonuses, potentially even more than the roughly $3 million he gave up previous season. To be clear, this matters. Rory is not being punished in a traditional sense. This is not disciplinary. This is structural. He is simply not meeting all the criteria required to unlock those financial incentives. And that is a huge shift in how the tour operates, because what we are seeing now is a system where players are being financially nudged to participate in key events. Not forced, but definitely influenced. And that brings up a real question. Is this a smart move from Rory, or is this starting to become a risky pattern? From a competitive standpoint, you could defend him. That post-master stretch is demanding, and a lot of players have talked about burnout and how tough it is to stay sharp right after Augusta. And clearly his approach is working when it comes to winning majors. But from the tour perspective, skipping one of your biggest events right after the biggest tournament of the year sends a message, not just to fans, but to sponsors, broadcasters, and everyone invested in the product. Now, the big unknown is what happened. Neither Rory nor the PGA Tour has officially confirmed the exact number, and insiders are saying that final figure might depend on how the rest of his season plays out, whether he shows up in other key events, how visible he remains, and how he aligns with those expectations moving forward. But one thing is already clear. What used to be a $3 million lesson might now turn into a $5 million statement. And when you put these two stories side by side, it really feels like we are at a turning point, PGA Tour. Because on one hand, you have Rory McIlroy playing some of the best golf of life, winning the Masters, holding off elite players like Scottie, Scheffler, Justin Rose, dominating a field that also included Sam Burns and Patrick, and putting himself in a conversation we have not had since Tiger Woods back in 2002. That is the competitive side, and it is incredible. But on the other hand, you have that same player making a decision to skip the RBC Heritage for the second year in a row after Augusta, knowing there is history there, knowing he's already been hit with a $2.2 million fine in the past, and now potentially walking away from something close to $5 million of bonuses tied to things like the Player Impact Program, sponsor visibility, and signature event participation. And that contrast is what makes this moment so fascinating, because it shows exactly where the PGA Tour is right now. This is no longer just about who plays the best golf. It is about scheduling. It is about business. It is about balancing personal life, like Rory spending time with Poppy and Erica, flying back and forth just to stay connected with the expectations of being one of the faces of. And it feels like we're entering an era where players are starting to draw their own line, where winning majors might mean not following the traditional schedule, where success at Augusta might come at the cost of visibility the very next. Back in 2020, after finishing T41 at Harbour Town, McIlroy all but confirmed the RBC Heritage would never be a regular part of his schedule. He said, "Once I got here and I played the golf course, I sort of remembered why I haven't been here. It's tough. It's a lovely place. There's other courses on tour that probably fit my game a little bit better, and obviously the week after the Masters is always a tough one. Guys like to come here and decompress. But my idea of decompression is not seeing golf clubs." The PGA Tour confirmed that McIlroy, who received $9 million of his potential $12 million bonus in January during one previous season, did not receive the balance when he withdrew from the RBC Heritage without giving. The PP, which began 2 years ago, rewards players based on various metrics of their popularity. Players were allowed to opt out of one of them. But McIlroy missed the Century Tournament of Champions at Kapalua and then withdrew from the RBC Heritage, violating the tour's requirement. His manager, Sean Flaherty, said in a text message only that McIlroy did not make any comment regarding Hilton Head and that he would next play the Wells Fargo Championship at Quail Hollow. The PIP program was being cut in half to $50 million. And players would not be required to play designated tournaments to receive the bonus moving forward. McIlroy has played the RBC Heritage only twice, in 2020 and 2020. Hideki Matsuyama and Adam Scott also elected not to play at Harbour Town. So, is this a positive moment for the PGA Tour? In terms of talent and storylines, absolutely. But in terms of alignment between players and the tour structure, it feels a little tense, a little uncertain, and maybe even a little divided. And as fans, that puts us in a weird spot because we want to see the best players at their absolute, and we want to see them show up in the events that keep the tour exciting week after. So this is not just about Rory skipping it. This is about what that decision represents for the future of the PGA Tour. And I'm really curious where you stand on this. Do you think Rory is making the right call, focusing on majors and his personal life, or should players like him be showing up for these signature events no matter what? If you enjoyed this kind of real, honest PGA Tour conversation, go ahead and like the video and drop your thoughts on it. I read everything. And if you're a true golf fan who wants more of this every week, subscribe to PGA Tour today. The channel is just getting started. We are pushing toward that first 10,000 subscribers, and having you here from the beginning really does mean a lot.